An Arlington County family says their relative has been deported after a man in plain clothes knocked on their door late at night to make an immigration arrest. The family said the man didn't identify himself and at one point pulled out a gun. The Arlington County Board Chair is calling for an investigation now into what happened. Our Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder has our story.
An Arlington County family was about to go to sleep the night of June 11th when, all of a sudden, home security camera video shows a man at their neighbor's front door. Then he came to their door.
It's 11:30 at night. What do you need? And he's like, just open the door. Like, I cannot hear you. Just open it.
Sandra and her youngest son, Joseph, asked us not to show their faces for this story. Sandra was in bed that night with her partner, Orlando. Joseph and his brother were getting ready for bed when the stranger knocked on their door. The boys called the police.
There's an unknown male knocking on the door asking for the caller's mom. They're not expecting anyone.
Another angle of the security camera video shows Arlington County police arriving at the family's home. Joseph says his brother went outside to talk with police and noticed the stranger was also talking with police. Joseph says when his brother came back inside, that's when the stranger made his move.
Our door was closed and he forced his way in very aggressively. When he came in, I was standing and he shoved me out of his way and I was screaming for help and he pointed his gun at me. He had his gun pointed at my head the entire time. And the police were right behind him and I was screaming for help, like, please help. In that moment, I thought, seriously, he was going to kill me.
This moment in the security camera video shows what appears to be that moment. Inaudible shouting and police rushing in. In the audio, we can hear someone say,
"Then he ran over here with his gun out."
Sandra and Orlando were still inside of their bedroom, but Sandra says the man broke the bedroom door on his way in to find them.
Once he went in the room, he threw me on the bed, and then he threw Orlando on the bed and asked for ID.
Video then shows what appears to be the stranger escorting Orlando out of the home in handcuffs.
He never gave any kind of identification, no name, no nothing, no warrant, absolutely nothing. Having the police there, I would have expected some kind of help, but...
Then they learned who this stranger was. You might be assuming he was an ICE agent, but the family says no. They learned he's a bondsman. Family members say the bondsman showed them this document titled Notice to Obligor to Deliver Alien after he made the arrest. The header at the top of the document reads Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
I felt hopeless.
The family says Orlando had been in the U.S. for 20 years working as a general contractor. After his arrest, the family says Orlando would later tell them that the bondsman drove him around in his car for hours, presumably waiting for the ICE office in Chantilly to open up. The family says Orlando was only held at Chantilly briefly. Then he was moved to Farmville. Then he was moved again.
Night, he called me. He said, I'm on my way to Louisiana. And I asked him, why Louisiana? He said, that's where they're taking me.
Shortly after arriving in Louisiana, the family says Orlando was deported to Honduras. That was before the family could ever make contact with a lawyer. An Arlington County police spokesperson says the officers on scene followed protocol and says they could not interfere with the bondsman. The spokesperson said, quote, officers responding to the call for service from the occupants of the home made contact with the male subject outside the residence and determined he was a DCJS licensed bail enforcement agent. The spokesperson added, the Arlington County police officers complied with county and department policies.
The legality of all this needs to be still investigated. It's possible. We assume that all this was within legal limits, but we are investigating in detail whether they are.
News 4 asked Arlington County Police if bondsmen are allowed to brandish firearms, and the spokesperson cited Virginia State Code, which outlines bondsmen are allowed to carry firearms, but they are not allowed to wear any kind of uniform or insignia to suggest they work for any local, state, or federal agency. News 4 reached out to ICE to ask for comment about using bond agents to make arrests on behalf of the agency, and an ICE spokesperson got back to us and explained that ICE doesn't employ nor contract bondsmen or bounty hunters to make arrests on behalf of the agency, and said that any obligor acting in that role and using these types of tactics is doing so on their own without any approval or any authority from ICE. Yet the family says the order the bondsman showed them was authorized by Steve Newman, who was listed as a deportation officer listed on the DHS website. News 4 followed up with ICE asking several more questions, including if ICE or DHS provided the notice to the obligor. And we asked why Orlando was accepted into ICE custody, moved, and then ultimately deported. An ICE spokesperson says anyone can serve an obligor notice, and if the subject of that notice is in the country without legal status, ICE may begin deportation.
Federal law enforcement agents are really testing the boundaries, and they are going to the fringe of legality to pursue an agenda.
In addition to the ICE spokesperson, I also spoke with a former ICE agent to try to better understand what happened here. The ICE spokesperson said this was not an ICE operation, and anything the bondsman did is on the company that he worked for. Now, we know that Orlando had an outstanding notice of removal dating back about 5 years, and the former ICE agent said it's likely that Orlando missed a hearing and that the bondsman's company covered Orlando's cash bond, and the only way for that company to recoup its money was to produce Orlando. And the former ICE agent said that's been a practice for decades.
Very reckless.
Very reckless.
It's tearing people apart. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine the children that have to go through this.
Reporting in Arlington County, Drew Wilder, News 4.